Hey everybody! This is a fun lesson for your adaptive art students as well as your general curriculum, but I wanted to focus mine on the adaptive art students. Obviously you would have to tweak it for your general curriculum ones, but this is such a fun, hands-on, messy, very tactile lesson for your students. So without further ado, this is Funky Paper Tacos. The materials you need include all of the materials that I made previously in the videos I've done before. Your toilet paper roll stamps, your Pringle can rolling pins, the texture rolling pins, as well as your reusable recycled chunky crayons. I have also included really cheap craft paint. That Nicole's brand is awesome. It's literally $1 for 3 bottles at AC Moore. They have it on sale all the time. And then you're going to use the stapler, pencil, scissors, construction paper, and sticks of glue. This is just showing you a new type of stamp that I didn't demonstrate in videos before. But if you want that flared out look, you just cut the top and fold them down, and they make kind of like a flower pattern, but more so just for texture. But this is just showing you how to assemble your taco shell. I start off by decorating the taco shell. That's very important. You want the students to decorate their shell before we fold and staple. I just chose to do the coloring with the chunky crayon on this one. On the example that I have made, I did the stamps and coloring with that new stamp I created, but just for the sake of the video, I just did the chunky crayon. This project is definitely a 2 to 3 day lesson, just because you have to wait for things to dry and it's messy. So this is just showing you how to make your folds. I take the ends together and then I go to the end and pinch the sides. That way you have a flat surface for it to stand up on. Then I just fold them back so it can lay flat. And then I create my dotted lines, and the dotted lines are for the students to fold, so that way they are doing something and you give them a little bit of a guide to fold along the lines. You need 2 sheets of the construction paper. One is the outer piece, which is with the decoration on, and the other is the inner piece. Now I'm drawing the shape of the shell, and that will be for the students to cut out. How I went about doing this is I folded it in the middle of the flat fold that you just made. So just fold the paper in half and then just cut along your draw, or what you drew for the shell shape. All the way around. And then you flatten out that flat surface that you made previously. And then there you go. Your shell stands up. So that's the base of your shell. Alright, so this next step is pretty important. We're going to take the 2 layers of cardstock or construction paper, whatever you use, and we're going to glue them together. So I take the glue stick to the flat fold that we made at the very beginning. Make sure that your decorative one is on the outside, and then you just rub the inner firmly on that flat piece so it binds together. If you want to make sure your folds are nice and sturdy so your taco stands up good, you can do that. You kind of have to tweak it, kind of wonky sometimes, but that's okay. Not all tacos are perfect. This next part is my favorite part. We're going to stuff the shell. So the students, I think, will really like this because they get to crinkle the paper. But I just take a little piece of ripped tissue paper, it doesn't have to be perfect, and just kind of maneuver it in there between the 2 pieces of cardstock. And I staple the bottom 2 sides first, and then kind of work my way around the shell to seal it. This is also kind of a trial and error, so you can kind of see where you have openings and staple those as needed. Same thing with the other side, ripped piece, stuff it in between the two, and then start stapling. I wanted to get a 3D look for the taco rather than just folding paper, which, you know, you can do just paper. That would have been just as good, but I don't know. I think it's really cool with it being 3D. Like I said, not perfect, but you get the gist. Just so I could show you how to assemble it. Yeah, that one does not want to stay standing. Alright, so for this next part, I'm just showing you the materials I created for the toppings for your taco. You have meat, cheese, lettuce, and your tomato. Clearly, I was creative with the color choices. I also pre-decorated these ahead of time, just for the sake of the video and the time I had, using the materials I made in previous videos. So I'm gonna do the meat first, and the meat I kind of went with the same kind of concept as the taco, the 3D route. So I'm gonna staple the bottom part just so the pieces are together and form kind of an envelope look. And then I just kind of roll tiny pieces of the tissue paper into balls and then stuff them in and go around the whole meat piece and staple it all in. You can see if you have openings and close them with a staple. So yeah, kind of like a meat patty, I guess. Kind of gives it the look of like beef or hamburger meat. So I think, yeah, I decided to staple it to the taco shell. That way it kind of has the look of it coming off. That way you're not just gluing. And like I said before, you have to kind of maneuver those creases so your taco can stay standing. Once you get other materials in there, it stays better because all the weight is on that one side at the moment. So now I'm going to do tomatoes. You can kind of do this anyway. This is a really cool project for just creative freeness, I guess you would like to say. You can do it a sphere, like a big round shape. You can do half circles, like slices. Really, you can do anything. Your students can do anything. For your adaptive arts students, you may have to help with the cutting and of course the stapling, just for safety purposes. But for your general curriculum, they should be able to do this. This project also really requires a lot of prep from the teacher, especially regarding the adaptive students. But sometimes you just have to go that extra mile. So now I am cutting out the pieces of lettuce. Again, you can give them options. They can do triangular shapes. The second option I did was crinkled slices. So you just cut it into frayed pieces and cut those off. And then you create folds in them. That way they kind of, I guess you could demonstrate a slinky. That's kind of what I thought of it, or like an accordion opening up. And that way it's more 3D and pops off and a little more funky than just the traditional flat piece of paper. Yeah, kind of limitless. They can really do anything here. If they want to do square shapes or more rounded shapes or crazy abstract shapes, they can. But if you want to give them more of a structure with the triangular, that's fine too. The cheese, I kind of went the squiggly route, I guess you could say. I cut them into long squiggly pieces of paper, and you can glue them in just like that, flat coming off. Or you can kind of do the same thing that I did with the lettuce and fold them. So they're also kind of crinkled and folded. Completely up to you. in your students. Again, it's allowing them to be free with their choice making in their project. Sometimes too much structure is overwhelming for them, so for them to be able to freely do things is always a good idea. This is another way you could do your cheese. I did it more of like a slice, melted cheese, and you can kind of maneuver that in however which way. This next part of the project is pretty much nothing but decision making. Figuring out what's the best way for you to put your toppings on your taco. Again, this is giving the students creative ability. It's giving them a chance to make these choices that typically they wouldn't make in a general classroom. So I decided to glue the half slice to the front of the taco. So when you're looking at it, it looks like it's coming out. And then I decided to do the round piece at the back. And I actually decided to staple this as well. You don't have to glue all the toppings. You can use the staple again. I think the stapler is really good because it just gives that 3D feel where it's not completely glued down, not completely flat. So I didn't even use that piece of tomato, which is fine. The cheese, I also decided to glue to the front. Always love a good cheesy taco. This lesson is also fun, I mean, because who doesn't love food, okay? So yeah, I'm gluing in my slice of cheese onto the front of the taco. This took a little bit of maneuvering to get it to stay, which is fine. You just have to kind of hold it for a few seconds and pinch it where it's needed. You may have to put another staple in there just to make sure that it's on there. I didn't, but if you would like to do that, you can for any of your for your toppings on your taco. I'm going in there now with the shredded cheese. A good thing to tell your students is tacos are not neat. There's nothing neat about a taco. I've never had a taco that doesn't fall completely apart onto the plate, and sometimes I end up eating it with a fork because it's so messy. That doesn't mean make your piece of art messy. It just means nothing has to be perfect, and the funkier the better. You can really choose where these go. They're filler items, which is nice. Now I'm going in with a piece of lettuce. I chose to staple this one to the back along with the meat and tomato. That way it just kind of comes off the taco shell. Here I am fixing the folds again so it stands up nicely. Here I'm choosing more pieces of lettuce and where they need to go. I glued this one to the back of the piece of cheese at the front. You really want as much layers in your taco as possible. Looks like it's overflowing with toppings. It's awesome. I love the folded lettuce. Such a fun way to show that piece of food, that texture. So I think I glued it to the front of the taco, as well as this one. You can staple them to the back just as easy as you stapled the other items. Whatever way you think is easier, whatever way your students prefer. They're really gonna love this project. It's so hands-on, and you get to decorate every piece that goes into your taco, which is really cool. This lesson is also really good for correlating it to Mexican culture. You can do the history of Mexican food, the history of the taco. I tend to tell people not every lesson you do has to be this super meaningful history lesson or super meaningful topic. Sometimes just having fun and being creative is awesome, but this is also really cool because you can correlate it with a culture. So you can be as creative as you want with that. Especially for your general curriculum, you would want it tied to an actual topic rather than just an activity. But I'm just going in and stapling a few items that kind of look as if they're falling off or not as sturdy. But there you have it. There is your funky paper taco. So much fun to create. Again, you really do need to take the time to prepare for your adaptive students. Definitely not a one-day lesson, but so rewarding and such a good outcome, and you and your students will love it.